Good day, I'm Annemien Geustyn and I am a Labour Legal Advisor at SEESA Cape Town.
Good day, my name is Stefan Tickner. I'm also a legal advisor in the SEESA Cape Town office. Today we're going to be discussing pregnancy in the workplace and accommodating employees during their pregnancy and after childbirth.
In many workplaces, the culture with regards to accommodating pregnant and breastfeeding employees are slim to non-existent. An employee who falls pregnant may not be able to work throughout her pregnancy or return to work after giving birth to her child unless she is reasonably accommodated by her employer.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's why it's important for us to note that the South African labour law regulates how an employee who is pregnant and a breastfeeding employee should be treated in the workplace. We look at the Labour Relations Act, especially Section 1871E of the Act. Then it is stated that no employee may be dismissed as a result of her pregnancy, as a result of her intending to become pregnant, or as any reason related to her pregnancy. This dismissal would be deemed as an automatically unfair dismissal, and an employee would be entitled to up to 24 months compensation, should she refer the matter to the CCMA.
Yes, Stefan, that is correct. In order for an automatically unfair dismissal claim to be successful, the pregnancy must be the primary reason for the dismissal. At the CCMA, the employee must discharge an evidentiary burden to the effect that the employer was aware of the fact that she is pregnant and that this was possibly the reason for the dismissal. If the evidentiary burden is discharged, the onus then lies on the employer to show that the employee was not dismissed for this reason.
Yes, that's correct. Of course, during an employee's pregnancy, she may be dismissed for reasons other than the automatically unfair dismissal referred to earlier, reasons for misconduct, incapacity, or potentially even operational requirements. And this dismissal, as stated, would not be automatically unfair as long as the employer can show that the misconduct or the incapacity or the operational requirements were the true reason for the dismissal. Employers do need to, however, be cautious. Demotion of an employee as a result of pregnancy or an intention to become pregnant is not allowed. And also, if we look at the Employment Equity Act, specifically Section 6, any unfair discrimination, whether direct or indirect, against an employee who is pregnant is prohibited.
That is very interesting. In terms of Section 26 of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, an employer may also not require or permit an employee who is pregnant or breastfeeding to perform work that is hazardous to her health or the health of her child. If an employee is required to perform night work or her work poses a danger to her or her child's health and safety, and it is possible for the employer to do so, the employer must, during the pregnancy and also for 6 months after the birth of the child, offer her suitable alternative employment. It is very important that this alternative employment is not on terms and conditions that is less favorable than those of her ordinary terms and conditions of employment.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We also need to look at the South African Code of Good Practice for the protection of employees during and after pregnancy, which guides employers and employees through this process. So when an employee informs her employer that she is pregnant, the employer should see to an evaluation being done of the employee's working conditions. This evaluation should always include an investigation into the employee's physical condition and should be done by a professional medical practitioner.
Yes, Stefan. Further to this evaluation, if the evaluation reveals that there is a risk to the health and safety of the pregnant employee or her child, the employer must inform the employee of this risk. After consulting the employer must determine what steps should be taken to prevent the exposure of the employee to the risk by adjusting the employee's conditions of work. If the conditions of work cannot be adjusted, the employer must transfer the employee to an alternative position.
Yeah, it's also further important to bear in mind guidelines on arrangements that must be made for pregnant and breastfeeding employees to attend to antenatal and postnatal clinics during the pregnancy and after birth, as is required. For the first 6 months of the child's life, An employer who is breastfeeding must further be given the opportunity for 2 breaks, 30 minutes each per day, for breastfeeding or for expressing milk.
Yes, also during the COVID-19 pandemic, government has seen it fit to issue extensive regulations and guidance on vulnerable employees and workplace accommodations. The general consensus is that if an employee is pregnant for further along than 28 weeks and she has health complications, this should result in extra caution from the employer, as such an employee is deemed as being vulnerable. Employers should temporarily accommodate pregnant employees with measures to reduce the risk of infection. If it is possible, the employer should also allow the employee to work from home during this time.
Yes, so it remains imperative for employers to keep up to date with the latest regulations and guidelines on pregnancy and, of course, pregnancy and COVID-19 as they are issued and published by the Department of Health. That's all we have time for today, and we hope you found this session informative. Please contact your closest SEESA offices if you need any further guidance or advice on this issue.